You wake to a noise that isn't roosters, wind, or your mother yelling at you to fetch water. No, this is louder, sharper. It's the sound of wooden wheels and iron shoes on cobblestones, mixed with 100 voices all trying to sell scold, or sing at the same time. You're not in some quiet, mud-smeared village anymore. You're in the heart of a medieval city, and fair warning, it's going to swallow you whole if you're not careful. The first thing that hits you is the smell. Forget any romantic notions about fresh bread drifting on the breeze. Yes, you might catch that, for half a second, before it's elbowed aside by the stench of tanneries boiling animal hides, fishmongers gutting yesterday's catch, and chamber pots being dumped into the gutter. It's the scent of money, survival, and slow death all stirred together. You'll get used to it, or you'll stop noticing because you've lost your sense of smell entirely. Your room is a loft above a shop you share with 2 cousins, a dog that isn't technically yours, and a family of mice who refuse to pay rent. Downstairs, your uncle is already shouting at an apprentice for burning the morning bread. The city wakes early because the sun does, and because sleeping in here is like asking fate to pick your pockets. From the doorway, you watch the street fill. There's a procession of merchants pulling carts, noblemen riding through on sleek horses that look like they've never seen a muddy field, and barefoot children darting between everyone, trying to snatch fallen apples or the odd coin. Over there, a man is selling onions. Over here, someone's loudly claiming to have a cure for headaches, boils, and bad luck. The cure involves wine and ground-up stag antler, so naturally people are buying it. This is the beating, wheezing heart of the medieval city, the market square. It's not just where you buy food, it's where you hear the news, find work, meet potential spouses, and see exactly who's been arrested this week. The pillory is set up in the corner, occupied by a man whose crime might be theft, blasphemy, or the serious offense of annoying the wrong person with money. Children throw turnip greens at him, because why waste good vegetables? You move carefully, through the crowd, guarding the small pouch of coins you've been saving for months. Cut purses are everywhere, and they're fast. A single distracted glance at a juggler or street preacher, and you'll be eating watery porridge for the rest of the month. Speaking of preachers, there's one now. He's standing on a crate voice, booming about the sins of vanity while making very direct eye contact with a group of women selling ribbons and combs. He promises hellfire for those who value beauty over humility. One of the women yawns and adjusts her headscarf in a way that somehow makes her look even prettier. The city is layered like an onion, not just in smells, but in social order. The top layer belongs to the nobility and the wealthiest merchants, who live in tall, timber-framed houses with glazed windows and actual chimneys. You probably won't be invited inside unless you're delivering goods or cleaning their floors. The middle layer is tradesmen and skilled artisans, bakers, blacksmiths, weavers, all protected by their guilds. The bottom layer is everyone else: laborers, porters, washerwomen, beggars. And under that bottom layer, the people no one talks about in polite company, the thieves, gamblers, and certain entrepreneurs who make their money in candlelit rooms with very soft beds. You belong somewhere in the lower middle, which is a polite way of saying you can afford bread most days, but meat is a festival luxury. You work when you can, eat when you can, and hope the next plague doesn't come your way. As you weave through the streets, you notice something else. Noise never stops here. Church bells ring to mark the hours. Blacksmiths hammer out nails, horseshoes, and sometimes new armor for the local lord's soldiers. A group of boys is chasing a pig down the lane, and it sounds like the pig is winning. Somewhere, a lute player is trying to sing over the market chaos, his voice cracking on the high notes. Life here is relentless, but there's a strange comfort in the rhythm. The city may not love you, but it will keep moving with or without you. You stop at a stall selling pears. The merchant eyes you suspiciously, as if he can tell you've been counting your coins for days. Haggling is expected, so you try. He pretends to be offended by your offer, lowers the price slightly, then throws in an extra pear when he sees you hesitate. Everyone is acting all the time. Every sale, every deal, every promise in this city has layers, spoken and unspoken. Learning to hear both is the difference between surviving and being fleeced. Turning down a narrow side street, the air changes. It's cooler here, shadowed by overhanging buildings so close their upper stories almost touch. You're in the artisan quarter. Shops are tiny but packed with goods. Shoes lined up like soldiers, bolts of cloth stacked in neat piles, candles arranged by size and color. The people here have the pride of craft, the stubbornness of those who know their work keeps the city alive. They complain about taxes, city guards, and the price of imported dyes. But they'll defend each other fiercely if someone from outside the quarter starts trouble. At the far end of the lane is the tavern. Even in daylight, it's busy. Merchants strike deals over mugs of ale. Sailors swap stories about storms and pirates. And a pair of suspicious-looking men in the corner keep glancing toward the door. The smell is a mix of beer, wood smoke, and the kind of sweat that comes from working too hard or not bathing often enough, which is most people here. You've been warned about taverns. They're where fortunes are lost, reputations ruined, and sometimes knives drawn. But they're also where jobs are found, alliances made, and news travels fastest. If you keep your ears open and your mouth shut, you might leave richer than you came in, or at least with a decent meal in your stomach, as you sip a cup of watered wine. Stronger stuff costs more than you can spare. You overhear a conversation at the next table. Two men are discussing the upcoming fair. It's the biggest event of the year. Merchants from distant lands, performers from other kingdoms, rare goods, and of course, thieves looking to make the most of the chaos. You've never been, but you know one thing. If you can find the right way in, the fair could change your fortunes. When you step back outside, the sun is higher, and so is the heat. People are moving faster now, some toward the docks where ships unload goods from across the sea. You catch a glimpse of spices from the east, bolts of silk, and crates of fruit you've never tasted. The dock workers are shouting, arguing over fees, while customs officers hover nearby, ready to take their cut. Farther uphill, the cathedral rises over everything. Its spire is visible from almost anywhere in the city, a constant reminder that no matter how busy you are, God, or at least his representatives, is watching. The bishop here is known for his long sermons and short patience with sinners. Rumor says he's building a private bathhouse, which might explain the new taxes. You make your way toward the city wall, partly for the view, partly for the breeze. From up here, you can see the farmlands stretching out beyond the gates, green and gold under the summer sun. You can also see the line of carts waiting to enter, each one stopped for inspection. The guards are thorough, looking for stolen goods, forbidden weapons, or anything the council might want to tax twice. Bribery speeds the process, of course. Bribery speeds everything here. As evening draws near, the city changes. Market stalls close, The shouts fade to murmurs, and the taverns fill up. Candles and oil lamps flicker in windows. Somewhere in the distance, a minstrel is singing a ballad about a knight and a miller's daughter, the ending lost in the laughter of his audience. You pass a narrow alley where a pair of lovers exchange hurried kisses, and another where a dice game is already in progress. The stakes are low bred, a few coins, but the tension is high. Back at your loft, you climb the ladder to your bedroll. Your body aches from walking, haggling, dodging elbows and carts. The city hasn't made you rich, not yet, but it's given you something else, a sense of being part of something bigger, louder, and more alive than anything you've known. It's a place where fortunes change in a day, where danger hides in shadows, and where opportunity smells suspiciously like yesterday's fish. And tomorrow, you'll step back into the noise and see what it has planned for you. You close your eyes, and the city keeps going without you. Wheels on stone, voices in the dark, and the steady heartbeat of 1,000 lives pressed together. Inside the walls, somewhere a bell rings. Somewhere else, a knife is drawn. Morning will come too soon. Morning in the city doesn't so much arrive as it barges in, kicks the shutters open, and demands you get moving, before the sun has burned the mist off the rooftops. The streets are already crawling with carts, animals, and people carrying more than their bodies should reasonably be able to. And today isn't just any morning. Today is the first day of the annual fair, which means chaos, profit, and trouble are all fighting for the same space. You shoulder your way into the main street, following the current of people. The air smells different, sharper, richer. There's roasting meat, sweet wine, strange spices you can't name but make your mouth water. Somewhere ahead, you hear the clanging of cymbals and the deep thump of a drum. Performers, already warming up, the fair spills beyond the market square, swelling into streets that normally belong to chickens and gossip. Tents rise like sails, their colors brighter than anything you've seen all year. Merchants from other towns and other countries have set up shop, their tables groaning under the weight of goods you didn't even know existed. You pass. Baskets of pomegranates, glinting in the light like jewels. Next to them, there's a stall of daggers with handles carved into snarling beasts. The man selling them smiles with too many teeth and not enough warmth. Everywhere there's noise. Traders shouting prices in 6 languages. Children laughing as they chase a painted wooden hoop. A juggler catching knives in one hand while drinking ale from the other. A woman with bells sewn into her skirt spins in a slow circle, and the sound wraps around her like sunlight. You stop at a table stacked with books, real books, with leather covers and careful stitching. The merchant tells you some are from the universities, others from monasteries, and one, he whispers, from a man who writes things the bishop would burn. You don't ask for details. You can't afford any of them, but you run your hand along the spines anyway, just to feel the work that went into them. Then you see it, the gambling tent, not tucked away in a shady corner, but right there in the open, as if everyone's agreed to pretend it's respectable. Inside, the air is thicker, smelling of sweat and ambition. Men and women hunch over tables, tossing dice or turning cards. Painted with strange figures, kings, fools, devils. Coins clink, cheers erupt. Somewhere in the back, a man curses loud enough to silence the room for a heartbeat before the noise swells again. You think about stepping closer, maybe trying your luck. But luck here is like a cat. It only comes when it wants to, and it usually leaves you with scratches. Outside, the crowd surges toward a raised platform. A man in a tall fur-lined hat is about to speak. You recognize him, one of the city councillors, the kind whose hands are always clean, even when his business isn't. He's flanked by guards, with polished breastplates and bored expressions. The councillor announces the start of the fair officially, lists the rules, and reminds everyone about the special tax on imported goods. This last part gets a few groans, but no one dares complain too loudly. Once he's gone, the space fills with something far more interesting. Performers, a troupe of acrobats in red and gold, leap and twist, their feet barely touching the ground. A man breathes fire into the air, the flame curling like a living thing before vanishing in smoke. Children squeal and press closer, only to be pulled back by nervous parents. The crowd's mood lifts. Coins drop into baskets. Even you can't help grinning. You wander deeper into the fair, past stalls selling things you can't imagine needing but suddenly want. A necklace of glass beads shaped like berries, a carved wooden whistle that sounds like a bird, a scrap of silk so smooth it feels like water in your hand. Every step, temptation, and behind every stall, a merchant who knows how to read your face. At the edge of the fair, where the crowd thins, you find the animal pens. Here, the noise is different. Bleating, braying, the occasional indignant squawk. Farmers stand beside their animals, extolling their virtues. Strong back, no limp, says one, patting a shaggy mule. Lays eggs all year, says another, lifting a squirming hen. You see goats, pigs, even a pair of peacocks that look at you with the cold disdain of creatures that know they're beautiful. Then, a different kind of pen catches your eye. Not animals, people, prisoners, guarded by two men with cudgels. These aren't common thieves or drunkards. They're dressed too finely for that, even in chains. You hear whispers, debtors, captured soldiers, maybe spies. Their fates will be decided before the fair ends. Ransom, work in the galleys, or worse. You move on quickly, the laughter and music of the fair feeling suddenly thinner. Back near the main square, you see something rare, a table surrounded by both nobles and commoners, all craning their necks to watch. At the center, a man in a dark cloak lays out tiny wooden cups, moving them back and forth with dizzying speed. Under one cup, a small bead, or was it under the other? Coins clink as people bet. The man lifts a cup empty. Groans and laughter ripple through the crowd. You know this game. The bead isn't under any cup when he wants it to vanish, but the thrill keeps people playing, hoping they're cleverer than the last fool. As the afternoon wears on, the fair becomes even more crowded. You catch glimpses of pickpockets slipping through the throng, their eyes sharp, their hands quicker than thought. A city guard chases one, shoving past you with a shout. Somewhere nearby, a fight breaks out, two men arguing over the price of a bolt of cloth. Voices rise, then fists. The crowd swallows them, and the noise carries on. You find yourself drawn to a smaller lane off the main fairground. Here, the tents are quieter, the good stranger. An old woman sells powders in tiny glass jars, each labeled with a symbol you don't recognize. A man with a patch over one eye offers charms made of bone, promising protection from thieves, illness, and untrustworthy lovers. There's a table of maps, not just of the city, but of lands far away, marked with seas full, of monsters and mountains shaped like teeth. One stall stops you in your tracks. It's nothing but fabrics, but not like the ones in the artisan quarter. These shimmer in the light, shifting colors as you move. The merchant says they're from across the sea, woven by people whose names you've never heard. You run your fingers over the cloth, thinking of how it would feel against your skin. Then you see the price. You smile politely and step away, though the fabric seems to follow you in your mind. As the sun begins to sink, lanterns are lit. The fair changes again. By day, it's about trade. By night, it's about entertainment and risk. Musicians take up spots at the tavern doors. Dancers sway to the rhythm of drums. Wine flows more freely. So do secrets. Deals are made in shadowed corners. Promises exchanged for coins or for favors that will be called in later. You find yourself back near the gambling tent. The air is warmer now, thick with pipe smoke. The stakes have risen, not just coins, but rings, bracelets, even deeds to property. You watch a man lose 3 games in a row, then his temper. The dealer doesn't flinch, just signals to a pair of large men standing by the entrance. The loser is escorted out, still shouting. Inside, the game continues without pause. You're about to turn away when you feel it, that prickling at the back of your neck. Someone's watching you. Not the casual glance of a merchant sizing up a customer, but something sharper. You scan the crowd. There a figure in a hood, leaning against a post, eyes fixed on you. The hood shifts, and you catch a glimpse of a smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Then the figure melts into the crowd. The music swells. The fair spins on. But you can't shake the feeling that somewhere in all this noise and light, something has just begun. The fair at night doesn't just look different, it breathes differently. By daylight, it's a shouting, laughing marketplace, spilling light into every corner and daring you to notice everything at once. But when the sun slips behind the rooftops and the lanterns take over, the fair grows teeth. The shadows fill in between the stalls. The colors dull, but the sounds sharpen. Coins clinking faster. Voices dropping lower. Music curling through the air like smoke. The day crowd thins, replaced by those who aren't here to buy bread or admire pomegranates. Lanterns sway overhead, their light never steady. Some burn in a clear yellow glow. Others sputter, coughing black smoke when the oil runs low. Moths batter themselves against the glass. The air has cooled, but the crowd is closer now, pressed in tight. You feel a dozen brushes, a sleeve against your arm, a hand grazing your belt, the edge of a tray passing too close to your head. The daytime merchants are still here, but they've pulled their respectable goods back into crates, as if the fruit and cloth might blush at what the night is bringing. In their place appear things you won't see in the daylight square. Jars of liquor so strong the smell alone makes your eyes water. Blades so thin you could hide them in your boot. Little paper twists filled with powder or crushed leaves, sold by men who murmur about courage, sleep, or the kinds of dreams you won't tell a priest. You turn into a busier lane, pulled forward by music, heavy drums that seem to come up through the ground, a flute trilling high above them, and a woman's voice weaving through the sound like a ribbon. It draws you past a tavern whose open doorway glows with warm, golden light. The crowd inside is too thick for the tables. Half the patrons have spilled into the street, mugs in hand, leaning against walls, laughing too loudly. 2 dancers move between them, scarves trailing from their hands, skirts snapping with each turn. Their shadows leap along the walls, keeping the rhythm long after the music pauses. Somewhere nearby, a man is singing a ballad in a language you don't understand. But the crowd knows the chorus. They shouted back at him, ale sloshing onto the cobbles. A boy no older than 10 darts between them with a basket of hot pastries, shouting his price. People buy without looking at him, pressing coins into his hand while still singing. You catch the smell, honey and cinnamon, before he disappears into the crowd, and still, you can't shake it. That quiet, steady prickling at the back of your neck. You saw the hooded figure earlier, watching you. You haven't seen them since, but that doesn't mean they're gone. The city has too many ways to hide someone in plain sight. You keep glancing over your shoulder, just quick enough to check, not long enough to look like prey. A side square opens ahead, lit by a single bonfire. The crowd here isn't laughing. They're leaning forward, eyes locked on the figure standing in the fire's glow. A storyteller. He's dressed in plain, travel-stained clothes, but the way the light catches his face makes him seem carved from something older than the city itself. His voice is low, but carries easily, telling of betrayal, of a king undone by the wrong. Friends whisper. His hands cut the air in shapes that pull you in, make you forget you were moving at all. You stay longer than you meant to. When he's finished, the crowd drops coins into his bowl without a word, and he nods in thanks before starting again. When you leave, the streets feel narrower, quieter. The noise of the main fair becomes a muffled hum, like you've stepped behind a curtain. Here the stalls are shut tight or left half open with a single lantern burning, the goods inside more guarded. This is where business is done in murmurs and half-promises, where you don't ask who you're speaking to, or why their hands are so clean when their boots are muddy. A man leans against a post as you pass. He's got a traveller's cloak, patched in places, and boots caked with mud from beyond the city walls, but his dagger gleams like it's never seen dirt. Looking for work, he asks, his eyes flicking to you, but never fully meeting yours. You shake your head. He nods once, like the offer will stay open, though you know it won't. In this part of the city, doors close quickly. Farther in, a tent larger than the rest looms at the end of a narrow lane. Beaded strings hang in its entrance, clinking softly in the night breeze. The smell reaches you before you step inside. Incense mixed with something sharper, almost metallic. Inside, the light is low, candles pooling wax into shallow bowls, shadows shifting with each movement. At the center sits a woman with hair black as wet ink, her hands folded on the cloth before her. She waits without speaking, eyes fixed. On your face, you've been followed, she says, not a question. The candlelight makes her eyes seem darker, almost reflective. She gestures to the chair across from her. You sit, the beads clicking shut behind you. She shuffles a deck of painted cards, deep colors, heavy lines. A tower split by lightning. A wheel surrounded by beasts. A cloaked figure with no face. She turns one over, then another, her fingers pausing. There's a choice ahead, and a price. Her voice doesn't change, but it feels heavier now. You open your mouth to ask, but her gaze flicks past you, to the beads swaying at the tent's entrance. Someone is outside. Go, she says, so quietly you barely hear it. Now, you push through the beads and into the lane. It's empty. The music from the fair is faint now, the kind of distance that makes you wonder if you've gone too far from the safe noise. You turn right, then left, trying to make your way back toward the lights, but hear the streets not together, folding in on themselves. A sound behind you, footsteps, light but quick. You speed up, The alley bends sharply, the walls leaning in until they block half the lantern light. You risk a glance back and see them. The hooded figure, closer now. The same smile you caught in the afternoon. Quick and sharp. You run, you tear through the fair's back edges. Past a row of tents, selling cheap wine in clay mugs. Past a dice game that scatters as you barrel through. A man swears at you, a woman, in a red scarf, grabs your sleeve, but you twist free before she can speak. The music swells and fades in pockets as you weave between stalls. Then, abruptly, you're in a small courtyard, walled on 3 sides. The only light is from a single lantern above a heavy wooden door with no sign. You take a step toward it, chest heaving, and stop. The hooded figure is there, blocking the way you came. For a moment, neither of you moves. The fair's noise has gone completely. The only sound is the lantern's faint hum and the blood rushing in your ears. You shouldn't be here alone, they say. The voice is low, deliberate, not a threat, not quite a welcome either. The hood shifts back just enough to reveal a scar running from the corner of the mouth down to the jaw. If you want to leave this fair with all your pockets and your skin intact, the figure says, you're going to listen to me. The thick lantern light paints the scar gold for an instant, then fades. Somewhere far away, the fair keeps singing. But here, in the small square of shadow, the night has gone still. The scar catches the lantern light just long enough to convince you that whoever this person is, they've seen their share of trouble and walked away from most of it. You stand in that narrow courtyard, the heavy wooden door at your back. The fair's muffled noise somewhere behind the walls, and the hooded figure in front of you, still blocking the only way out. They take a step closer. Not rushed, not threatening, just enough to make the space between you feel smaller. You're far from the safe lanes, they say, and you've been noticed by them, you think. But there's something in the way they say it, like they're not talking about themselves at all. Your eyes flick to the door behind you. Solid iron hinges, a heavy bar across the inside if it's locked. The figure follows your glance. Don't, they say. You won't like who answers. Another step. The air between you smells faintly of smoke, the kind from a wood fire, not the oily burn of the fair's lanterns. You can stay here and see who else finds you, they say, or you can come with me. Choice is yours. It isn't much of a choice. You fall into step beside them, though beside is generous. They keep half a stride ahead, leading you out of the courtyard and into a side alley that seems to fold twice before opening into a wider lane. Here, the fair's sounds creep back in, but it's the thinner, stranger music of the night hours, low drums, slow flutes, a voice singing something too old for most of the listeners to understand. You pass a group huddled around a makeshift table, the surface just a plank on barrels. Coins gleam in the torchlight as they roll dice carved from bone. The figure doesn't slow, doesn't glance. They cut left down a narrow street where the stones underfoot are worn smooth. The air changes cooler, with the damp weight of river mist. You hear water somewhere ahead, the slow lap of it against stone. The fair's noise fades again, replaced by the creak of mooring ropes and the occasional thud of something heavy dropped onto a boat's deck at the river's edge. A low building squats against the bank, its roof sagging under its own age. The figure pushes the door open without knocking. Inside, the smell of tar and rope is thick, layered with a sharper tang of ale. A few heads turn as you enter, men and women in worn coats. Some with sailors' knots tied around their wrists, others with eyes that never stop scanning the room. The figure leads you to a table in the back, where a single candle burns low in a pool of wax. They sit, gesture for you to do the same. Only now do they push the hood back fully. The scar is worse, up close, not jagged but clean, like it was cut with something sharp and steady. Their eyes are dark, but not hard. Name's Calen, they say. You don't know me. You're not supposed to. But you've stepped into something, and if you want to step out again, you're going to need a guide. You ask the obvious. What's something they mean? Calen leans back, folding their arms. You've caught the wrong kind of attention, not because of anything you've done yet, but because you were where you shouldn't be. Watching who you shouldn't. Watch. The memory clicks. The fortune teller's tent. The beads swaying as someone stood outside. The way she told you to go. Calen watches your face and nods, as if confirming something. You weren't the only one in that tent tonight. Someone else was there before you. Someone who doesn't like to be followed, even by accident. They slide a small object across the table, a coin, heavier than it looks, stamped with a symbol you don't recognize. If you see this again, Calen says, walk the other way. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter who's holding it. Before you can ask why, the door bangs open. A rush of cold air and river mist rolls in. 3 figures step inside, moving like they already know where they're going. Calen's eyes flick toward them, then back to you. Time to go. You stand, but Calen doesn't head for the door you came in. Instead, they lead you through a back room stacked with barrels and coiled rope, then out onto a narrow pier. The river stretches dark and wide before you. Lanterns from moored boats casting long trembling lines across the water. This way, Calen says, stepping onto a low, flat craft tied to the pier. You hesitate, glancing back toward the door. Footsteps echo inside the building. You follow. The boat slides away from the pier with barely a sound, the oars dipping into the water like careful whispers. The city from the river is a different thing, its light scattered, its noise softened, its size pressing down like a giant sleeping above you. Calen rose without looking back, but their voice carries over the water. You wanted the fare. They say, now you've got the city that comes with it. Best learn the difference. Ahead, a low arch of stone looms over the river. A bridge by day, a shadow by night. You pass beneath it, the echo of the water against the stone making. It sounds like the city is speaking in its sleep. When you emerge on the other side, the lanterns are fewer, the banks quieter. Calen nods toward a narrow stairway cut into the stone wall. Up there, they say, and don't look back. You climb, the steps damp and uneven. At the top, you find yourself in a street you don't recognize, narrow, roof lines, leaning in until they almost touch, the sky a thin strip of darkness above. Calen's voice comes from behind you, softer now. Stay to the lit lanes, and remember the coin. When you turn, they're already gone, swallowed by the shadow at the stair's edge. The only sound is the distant hum of the fair, still alive somewhere beyond the rooftops. You stand there, alone again, the weight of the coin in your pocket, and realize the night isn't done with you yet. The street you've been left in feels like it belongs to no map. Too narrow for carts, too crooked for the straight lines merchants love. The lamps here burn low, some so choked with soot they give more smoke than light. The stones underfoot are slick with something that might be rainwater, or might not. The night has cooled further, but the air is still thick. You can feel the fair somewhere behind you, that faint buzz of music and laughter drifting through the cracks between buildings, but here the sound barely touches. It's like you've stepped into one of the city's forgotten folds, where even noise gets lost. You take a step, and the sound echoes too loudly for such a narrow space. Another step, the houses on either side are old, the kind where the wood beams bow outward, as if they're tired of holding themselves together. The shutters are closed, some nailed in place. A flicker of movement above catches your eye. A curtain shifts just enough for you to glimpse the pale oval of a face, then vanishes. Someone is watching. You keep walking, slower now, listening for footsteps behind you. Nothing yet. But in the city, nothing doesn't always mean no one. The street twists left, then right, and suddenly opens into a small square. Not the lively, lantern-strung kind from the fair. This one is paved in uneven stones, a dry fountain crouching in the center, like it's sulking over its own neglect. Moss climbs the rim. The only light comes from a single torch mounted on a crooked pole. 3 men lean against the fountain. They're not talking, just watching you. Not openly hostile, but not the kind of idol you trust. One has his arms folded, the torchlight catching the knotted scar tissue along his forearms. Another idly rolls a coin over his knuckles. Not a coin. The coin. You don't need to see the stamp to know. Calen's warning hits the back of your skull like a hammer. If you see this again, walk the other way. But here, there is no other way. The man flips the coin once, catches it without looking, then speaks. You've been busy tonight. His voice is even unhurried. Walking places you don't belong. Talking to people you shouldn't. Your hand twitches toward your pocket where your own coin, Calen's coin, rests. You don't touch it. Not yet. You're going to give us something, the man says. And then you're going to walk away. That's how this goes. What's something, you ask, trying to keep your voice level? The thing you don't know you have. It's nonsense, and yet something in the way he says it makes you believe there is something. You glance back, the way you came, but the mouth of the street has gone dark. A 4th man stands there now, leaning on a staff like he's just keeping himself upright. The one with the coin steps closer. Enough for you to smell him, leather, smoke, and something metallic under it. You've got until I close my hand, he says. The coin rests on his palm, glinting in the torchlight. His fingers start to curl. A shout cuts across the square. Not angry, urgent. You turn toward it without meaning to, and that's when you see her, the fortune teller, standing in the shadow of the fountain, just beyond the torchlight. You don't know how long she's been there. She says something in a language you don't know. The men glance at each other, not liking it. The coin man's hand hesitates, fingers still half open. She says it again, sharper this time, and points, not at you, but at the torch. A wind rises from nowhere, strong enough to make the torch gutter and die. Darkness crashes over the square. You don't think, you run. The streets blur, left, right. A half stumble over a loose stone. A scrape against a wall. Voices behind you, some close, some farther off. You shove through a gap. Between 2 buildings so narrow you can feel the stone on both shoulders. When you burst out the other side, the air feels different again, warmer, scented with spiced wine and wood smoke. The fair, but not the part you left earlier. This stretch feels older, quieter. Stalls here are set close together, their awnings low, their goods displayed in small, precise arrangements. candied figs in neat rows, bottles of oil so clear they catch the lamplight like jewels, a woman selling knives from a velvet-lined tray. You weave through, trying not to look like you're fleeing. A man offers you a cup of steaming drink, but you shake your head without slowing. He shrugs, calls after you about the cold night. Somewhere, in the press of people, you hear the faint chink of metal, a coin against another coin. You spin, scanning faces, but there are too many. The crowd pushes you forward. You spot a narrow passage between two stalls and duck into it. It's darker here, the noise of the fair dampened. You lean against the wall, catching your breath. You kept it. The voice comes from the shadow opposite you. The fortune teller steps forward, the beads from her tent now tied around her wrist. Good, she says, as if that answers something. What is it they want? You ask. She tilts her head. Not what, who. Before you can press her, the crowd noise swells again. Someone's coming down the passage. The fortune teller's eyes snap toward the sound. Follow, she says, and turns without checking. If you obey, you do. The passage opens into a small courtyard strung with paper lanterns painted in red and gold. A shallow pool in the center catches the light, making it shimmer on the walls. The air here smells faintly of jasmine. It's quiet, too quiet, given the fair is only a street or two away. This is a crossing place, the fortune teller says. Not everyone can use it. Tonight you can, once. She kneels by the pool, dips a hand into the water. The surface ripples, then stills. For a moment, you see nothing but the reflection of the lanterns. Then the image shifts, a different street, lit by early morning sun. No fair, no crowd when you step through. She says, you won't be in the same part of the city. You won't see me again. You start to ask what happens if you don't step through, but she's already standing, already turning away. The men with the coin will find you, she says over her shoulder, and they will ask you again what you don't know you have. You won't have an answer then, either. The reflection in the pool glows brighter, the sound of the fair fading until all you hear is the faint trickle of water. You look up, but the fortune teller is gone. The choice sits in front of you, rippling faintly. Step through or turn back into the fair's maze. Coin still in your pocket, questions heavier than when you started. You take a breath. The air smells of jasmine and something else, something sharp, electric, like the moment before a storm breaks, and then you step forward. The water isn't cold, not warm, just a skin of something that feels like it might not be water at all. For an instant you expect to sink, but your foot passes through with no resistance. The courtyard, the lanterns, the faint smell of jasmine, they dissolve into a bright smear of light. Then nothing. When you blink, you're standing ankle-deep in puddles on a stone street slick with rain. It's morning, or at least it looks like morning. The air is washed, clean, carrying the smell of wet stone and fresh bread. The sun sits low, its light filtered through mist, so the buildings seem to rise out of clouds. No fair, no noise, just the occasional hollow clop of hooves somewhere out of sight. The first thing you notice is the silence, not the heavy, dangerous kind from the alleys at night. This is the hush of a city before it wakes. Windows are shuttered. Market stalls stand empty, their canvas tops still rolled tight. A cat picks its way across a roofline, pausing to glance down at you before vanishing over the edge. You check your pocket. The coin is still there. A cart rattles by, pulled by a mule with a coat the color of damp earth. The driver doesn't look at you, just urges the animal on. You realize you don't recognize this part of the city at all. The streets are too straight. The buildings cleaner, the gutters free of the usual litter. This is not the neighborhood you came from. Somewhere nearby, a bell chimes once. Then, again, lower. The sound carries over the rooftops. You walk. The paving stones are set in careful patterns here. No gaps for weeds to push through. The houses have painted shutters, the kind that look like they've been repainted every spring for years. You pass a bakery where the door stands open, warm air spilling into the street. The smell of fresh bread pulls at you, and before you think better of it, you step inside. A woman behind the counter glances up. Her hair is pinned in a neat coil, her apron dusted with flour. "You're early," she says. You start, but she's already wrapping a small loaf in paper. "Calen said you might come." The name drops into your stomach like a stone. You take the bread she offers, still warm through the wrapping. "They left me," you begin, but she shakes her head. "They didn't leave you," she says. "They're just ahead, before. You can ask where." She nods toward the door. "Eat. You'll need it." You step back into the street, the loaf warm in your hands. The mist is lifting now, revealing more of the city. Tall roofs, narrow chimneys, lines of laundry strung. Between upper windows, somewhere to your right, you hear the distant lap of water. You follow the sound, winding through streets that seem designed to lose you. Each corner promises a view you think you'll recognize, but the moment you turn it, the city rearranges itself again. The bread is gone before you realize you've eaten it all. Then a voice, low, urgent, "Here." You stop. Calen is half hidden in the shadow of an archway, hood down this time. Their eyes flick to the coin in your pocket. "Still have it?" You nod. "Good. Keep it hidden." They glance over their shoulder, then back at you. "The place you came from last night, it's not gone. It's just layered under this. They'll be looking for you in both." It's not a comforting thought. Calen starts walking without another word. You follow. The streets here slope downward, the sound of water growing louder until you step out onto a stone embankment. The river is wider here, the current slower, the banks lined with buildings that lean toward the water as if listening. On the far side, you see a market being set up, tents unfurling, crates being carried, poles hammered into place. But this is no fair. The colors are muted, the goods heavier, bales of cloth, sacks of grain, bundles of dried herbs hanging in neat rows. Calen leads you down a narrow stair to the water's edge, where a flat-bottomed boat waits. The man holding the pole that anchors it nods to Calen, then eyes you without expression. "We cross, Calen," says Dot. The boat moves smoothly, the water barely slapping at its sides. You keep your eyes on the far bank, trying not to look at the current swirling darkly below. Calen leans close enough that you can feel their breath. "They'll show you the coin again," they say. When they do, you don't speak first. You wait. If they speak your name before you've given it, you follow me, no questions. Before you can ask why, the boat bumps the far bank. Calen is already moving up the slick steps and into the market. The smells hit you first. Earth from the grain sacks, sharpness from the herbs, the faint musk of wool. Traders call to each other in voices that rise and fall like waves. Calen weaves through, not slowing, until you reach a stall set apart from the rest. A man sits behind it, sorting coins into neat stacks. He looks up as you approach, and without breaking eye contact, picks up one coin between thumb and forefinger. The same stamp. Calen doesn't move, neither do you. The man smiles, just slightly, and then the man rolls the coin across his knuckles, slow enough for the light to catch on every turn. The stamp, that strange, almost familiar mark, seems to pulse in the morning air. You've brought something back, he says, voice steady, almost conversational, from the other side. Calen doesn't blink. You know why. The man's eyes move from Calen to you. Maybe I do. Maybe I want to hear you say it. Calen shifts slightly, enough for you to see the way their hand rests near the hilt of a knife. The crowd noise around the stall swells and fades. But here, between the three of you, it's as if time has pulled tight. The man tosses the coin into the air, catches it without looking. You've been walking in both, he says to you. That makes you a courier. You may not like it, but the city chooses its couriers. You feel the weight of Calen's warning earlier about waiting, about names. You keep your mouth shut. The man's smile sharpens. Wise, he sets the coin flat on the table between you, pressing it down with one finger. This isn't just a token, it's a key, and keys fit more than one door. He reaches under the table and brings up a small, leather-bound ledger. The edges are worn smooth by years of handling. He flips it open, revealing page after page of lists, names, dates, symbols you don't recognize. Calen leans in. This is too public. The man ignores them, tapping the ledger. These are the crossings, the last 100 years of them. Most coins are lost, stolen, melted into nothing. But yours, he looks at you again. Yours hasn't been used. Not properly. A sudden movement behind you. Someone brushing too close in the crowd. You turn, catching a glimpse of a man's shoulder, a bit of dark cloth, before he's swallowed again by the market. When you face forward, the coin is gone from the table. You pat your pocket instinctively and feel it still there. The man notices. Good, keep touching it, so you'll know when it isn't. Calen's patience is fraying. Why here? Why now? The man closes the ledger with a soft thump, because the boundary is thinning. And when it thins, those on the other side come looking for what belongs to them. The words settle in your chest like cold water. And what's that? You ask before you can stop yourself. He smiles again, slow, not what, who, it's. The same phrase the fortune teller used. Hearing it here makes your stomach not dot. The man leans forward, lowering his voice. You'll see them soon enough. When you do, you'll have one chance to cross without them following. That's what the coin buys. One clean step. Calen exhales through their nose, a sound halfway between relief and frustration. And after that, the man shrugs. After that, it's their city, not yours. A shout cuts across the market. People turn their heads, some stepping aside. You catch a glimpse through the shifting bodies, 3 figures moving against the flow, their faces obscured by hoods. The space around them seems to push people away, as if the crowd itself doesn't want to touch them. Calen's hand is on your shoulder before you can react. We're leaving. The man behind the stall doesn't move to stop you. He just calls after you, his voice calm over the market noise. One clean step. Calen pulls you between stalls, through the press of bodies, until the sound of the market fades into the echo of narrower streets. You duck into an archway, both of you breathing hard. They're already here, Calen says. We don't have until nightfall. You glance toward the mouth of the alley, half expecting to see the hooded figures appear. Instead, you see something worse, a flicker of the night fare just for a heartbeat. superimposed over the bright morning. Lanterns, laughter, shadows, shifting in places they shouldn't be. And then it's gone, leaving only the daylight street. Calen follows your gaze, jaw tightening. The layers are bleeding. They take your wrist, pushing your hand into your pocket until your fingers close around the coin. When it turns cold, we move. Not before. You wait. The air in the alley feels heavier now, each breath carrying a trace of something metallic. Somewhere beyond the walls, the hooded figures are moving. You can feel it without seeing them. Then the coin cools against your skin, fast enough to make you gasp. Double quotes now, Calen says, and pulls you toward the street. The moment Calen yanks you from the alley, the air changes. Not just in temperature, in weight. It's as if the city has drawn a long, low breath and hasn't decided yet whether to exhale. The light tilts, not brighter or dimmer, but sideways. Shadows leaning where they shouldn't. The coin in your hand feels heavier now, not from its size, but from the way it seems to want to sink through your palm into the street. Calen's pace is fast but measured, weaving you into streets where the cobblestones are still slick from the earlier mist. Above, balconies lean over like spectators at a parade no one else can see. You risk a glance behind. At first, you think the hooded figures are gone, until you realize they're walking the same path you are, only slightly behind in time. Their feet fall where yours just were. Their heads tilt as if studying your shadow rather than your body. It's like they're watching you through the thin skin of a mirror. Calen pulls you around a corner into a street that looks wrong. Half of it belongs to the morning city. Clean walls, painted shutters, a cart stacked with folded cloth. The other half is still the night fair. Lanterns swinging gently, booths with fabrics that ripple even without wind, music faint. Enough to feel in your chest but not hear in your ears. The two halves run alongside each other, meeting not at a seam but bleeding together, as if the street can't decide which version it wants to be. You walk the center line without meaning. 2, 1 foot in each world. The scent of spiced wine from the fair coils, into the warm, yeasty smell of fresh bread from the morning bakery. Somewhere far off, laughter overlaps with the hollow ringing of a hammer on metal. Your head begins to ache, your eyes struggling to focus on either side for more than a few seconds. Don't stop, Calen says. They can't close the distance, as long as you're moving, but your pace falters when a stall from the fair leans into the dayside, a wooden counter covered in glass jars. Inside each jar, something glimmers faintly, tiny sparks like trapped lightning bugs. You recognize one immediately. The pale shimmer of the courtyard fountain from last night, swirling inside a jar no larger than your fist. The face is hidden in shadow, but you feel their gaze pinning you. You realize you've drifted too close the moment you take a step toward the jars. The hooded figures gain ground. Calen is suddenly at your side, hand gripping your arm hard enough to jolt you back into motion. The street narrows, the bleed between layers is thicker here, doorways that lead into one world but open into the other, steps that start in morning light and end in the glow of lanterns. Calen moves without hesitation, choosing the steps that keep you half in one, half in the other. Your chest is tight now, the effort of keeping pace making your breath short. But then you hear it, the faint metallic jingle that's not coins, not bells, the sound of something small but sharp brushing together. The hooded figures are closer, their presence pushing against the space around you like a tide. Next turn, Calen says, voice low but urgent. The next turn is an archway. Tall, narrow, half lit by daylight on one side, lantern glow on the other. Calen plunges through without hesitation. You follow, and the air on the other side is colder, heavier. You're back in the night fair, only it's not the same as before. The crowds are quieter now, moving slower, faces turned away. The music is gone, replaced by a low hum you feel. In your bones Calen slows, listening. We can lose them here, if we cross right. The phrase cross right echoes in your head. The man at the stall, the one clean step he mentioned. You feel the coin shift in your pocket. Not cold this time, but warm, almost hot, as if it's reacting to something nearby. Calen notices. Good, hold it tight. You wrap your fingers around it, the heat biting into your skin just enough to keep you focused. The fair is different here. Stalls stand closed, their awnings down, but you see movement behind the fabric, silhouettes that don't match human shapes. Lamps along the path gutter as you pass, their flames bowing toward you instead of flickering at random. Then the hooded figures step into view ahead of you. Not chasing now, waiting. Calen swears under their breath. They've split. Your first instinct is to turn and run back, but when you glance over your shoulder, the other two are already there, blocking the way. The crowd, what little there was, has melted away, leaving you, Calen, and them in a corridor of shadow and muted light. They won't touch you yet, Calen says quietly. They'll try to talk first. That's worse. One of the figures tilts their head, the hood shifting just enough to reveal a glimpse of pale skin, lips that don't quite move with the voice that follows. You've been carrying something of ours. The voice doesn't echo. It doesn't need to. It's already in your head, the words unspooling without sound. The coin in your hand pulses once hot, then cold. Calen steps between you and them. We're leaving. The hooded figure's lips barely part. You'll cross. You won't like where you land. The air tightens, and for a heartbeat, both worlds slam into perfect alignment. Morning light blazing over lantern glow. Market noise crashing into silent alleys. Warm bread scent choking on the tang of wine and smoke. You feel the coin go, dead cold in your palm now. Calen shouts and pulls you sideways, not forward, not back, but into the seam between the two worlds. For half a breath, you're nowhere. There's no ground when you land, not in the way you expect, at least. Your feet find something firm enough to hold you, but it isn't stone, or wood, or earth. It's like standing on the surface of a frozen pond that isn't water at all. More like glass holding back a slow, black current dot above. There's no sky, no ceiling either. Just a vast, dim expanse with shapes drifting in it, too far to make out, too large to feel safe about. The seam smells faintly of copper and something older, like the inside of a locked trunk that hasn't been opened for decades. Your breath fogs, even though the air isn't cold. Calen lets go of your wrist only after scanning the emptiness around you. Don't wander, the edges shift. You glance in the direction you came from, but there's nothing. No alley, no hooded figures, no light. The way back is gone. Somewhere off to your right, a ripple moves through the glass-like surface, the way water shivers when something passes beneath it. You can't tell if it's far away or right below you. What is this place, you ask? Calen's answer is clipped. The space between what's meant to touch and what isn't. It doesn't like visitors. As if to confirm this, a sound rises, not loud, but close. A long low note, like a bow dragged across the largest cello you've ever heard. It vibrates in your ribs, making your heart stutter in response. Calen starts walking, their steps slow but deliberate. The surface holds, but each step sends faint cracks spidering out before sealing themselves again. You follow, trying not to think about what might be moving beneath. The darkness shifts. Not ahead, not behind, but above. One of the drifting shapes lowers, gaining definition as it comes closer. A long, tapering form, almost eel-like, with threads trailing from it like unraveling fabric. The threads sway as if in a current you can't feel. Don't look at it, Calen says. You do anyway. The threads twitch, sensing your attention. One lifts, curling down toward you, moving without hurry. The air around it bends slightly, the way heat shimmers on summer roads. Calen's hand flashes to their pocket, pulling out something that glints faintly in the half-light. Not the coin, something flatter, darker. They throw it onto the surface. Ahead of you, and the thread pauses, tilting toward the object instead. Walk. Calen says, low and fierce. You move, your boots making that same faint, almost glass tap. The eel shape doesn't follow, but its thread trails after you for a few more paces before retracting slowly back upward. How many of those are there? You ask. Calen doesn't look up. Enough to make this quick. The seam narrows ahead, the vast expanse folding into something like a hallway, the glass surface rising into warped walls on either side. The air here is warmer, heavier, and you realize the walls aren't solid, they're translucent. And behind them, you can see flickers of both worlds you left behind. The morning market on one side, the night fair on the other. The scenes shift. As you walk, in the market, the hooded figures stand exactly where you last saw them, but their heads turn as if they can sense you. In the fair, the same stall with the glass jars sits closed, but now one jar is glowing brighter than the rest, with the same pale shimmer as your coin. Calen notices your gaze. Don't stop. We're not taking anything else out of here. But that's exactly how you get trapped. They finish. You keep moving until the hallway bends sharply, opening into a wider space. Here, the surface ripples constantly, as if something massive is pushing up from underneath. The far end is marked by an arch that doesn't belong to either world, carved from a dark, porous stone that seems to drink in the light around it. That's our way out, Calen says. Before you can step toward it, the note from earlier returns deeper this time, close enough to make your teeth ache. The surface under your feet pulses, not just rippling, but lifting. Calen swears. It's coming up. From below, the darkness swells, splitting the glass-like floor. Something huge breaches, not eel-shaped this time, but round, almost like a great eye-opening beneath you. No pupil, no iris, just a pale, milky expanse. The size of a market square. The air around you distorts. The coin in your pocket goes icy, almost burning from the cold. Run, Calen says, and you do. The arch feels farther away than it should be. Each step you take stretches the distance, the way dreams do when you're running toward something that refuses to get closer. Behind you, the surface shatters in long, jagged cracks. The pale expanse beneath pushes higher, bulging like a bubble about to burst. That deep note rolls through the seam again, and this time it's joined by a sharp, metallic ringing, the sound of something breaking in a place that shouldn't break. Voice is tight. Keep your eyes forward. The arch won't open if you look back. You focus on the stone ahead, porous, black, its edges blurring slightly as if it isn't fully here. The air thickens the closer you get, each breath harder to pull in. Your chest straining like you're walking uphill against a storm. The cracks under your feet begin to glow. Faint at first, then brighter. A cold white light spilling from below. Shapes move in it, too quick to name. Darting through the fractures like fish in shallow water. Something brushes your ankle. You almost look down, but Calen's hand is suddenly at your back, shoving you forward. The coin, they shout, hold. It tight. You do, and the moment your fingers close hard around it, the arch changes. The black stone starts to hum, deep and resonant. The same pitch as the note that's been vibrating in your bones since you arrived here. Only now it's in harmony, not opposition. The space inside the arch shifts from darkness to something brighter, but not daylight. More like a thin, silver mist, swirling with faint hints of both worlds. The clatter of the market, the flicker of lanterns, the smell of spiced wine and bread baking. The pale mass behind you surges again, and this time you hear it break through. The surface explodes upward in a shower of shards that hang in the air instead of falling, each one holding a reflection of a place you don't recognize. The creature doesn't fully emerge. It doesn't need to. A single thread rises from the breach, reaching its close enough now that you feel its pull, like gravity, tugging you backward. Your boots slide on the surface. The air warps around the thread, bending toward it, carrying you with it. Calen grips your arm. One clean step, that's all you get. After that, they don't finish. The thread lashes forward, splitting into finer strands that fan out like the ribs of a fan. Each one aimed at you. You lunged out, your foot hits the threshold of the arch. The coin in your hand turns so cold it feels hot, every nerve in your palm lighting up at once. The mist swallows your vision, sound collapsing into a single heartbeat. The pull from behind vanishes, or maybe you do when the mist clears. You're standing in a street you know, the same cobblestones, the same slant of morning light. Number, night fair, no hooded figures, just the quiet buzz of a city waking. Calen is gone, dot in your hand. The coin is different, its stamp smoothed away, its edge worn as if it's been in your pocket for years. You feel lighter until you hear it. Far away, down some unseen street, a deep, low note hums. Not loud enough for anyone else to notice. Just enough to let you know the seam still remembers you. And that one step doesn't close a door. It only delays the knock.